Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking into a story that's profoundly moving and really quite complex. It centers on Caitlin Ordone. Many of you might know her as the mother of OK Baby, who was just huge on TikTok. And while this story, well, it starts with an absolute tragedy, the loss of her little boy, Preston, who was only 2, in a car crash, it quickly goes somewhere else, somewhere unexpected. Caitlin herself was severely injured. Specifically, she suffered a traumatic brain injury, a TBI, that wiped her memory of the accident completely.
Right. And that's really our focus for this deep dive. We want to try and understand the unique challenges here. Processing something so life-altering when you personally don't have the memory of it happening. So we'll look at how external things like, say, call logs, or what family tells you, how those become crucial for piecing reality back together. And we'll also touch on these surprising personal moments that can sometimes surface even in the midst of such awful trauma, moments that offer, well, unexpected strength. And of course, yes, we absolutely need to take a moment to remember Preston. OK, baby, the little boy who just brought so much joy.
Okay, so let's set the scene. The crash itself. It happened about 50 miles north of New Orleans. A Ford truck, it veered off the road, hit a tree.
And the people involved. Caitlin Ordone, the mother. Her husband, Jalen Ordone, thankfully, he survived. And their son, Preston, just 2 years old. It's important to note, their daughter, Paisley, who's 7, she wasn't in the car during this incident back in April. The coroner's office, the St. Tammany Parish coroner, they confirmed Preston died from blunt force injuries due to a motor vehicle crash, and the manner was listed as accidental.
And this is where Caitlin's own experience just takes such a difficult turn. The traumatic brain injury, the TBI, she has said she has absolutely no memory. Not of the crash itself, not even of the 2 or 3 days right after it happened. I mean, how do you even begin? How does someone start to process a loss like that when your own mind has, no record of it?
That is the absolute core of the difficulty, isn't it? And it makes her situation so distinct. A traumatic brain injury, particularly if it affects areas like the hippocampus or the frontal lobes, it can really mess with how new memories get stored or how you retrieve existing ones, especially around something traumatic. It's often called post-traumatic amnesia. So for Caitlin, that moment, the crash, the chaos right after, it just wasn't encoded, not into her conscious memory. So she's essentially trying to grieve and heal from an event her brain has, for all intents and purposes, erased.
Wow. Okay, so even with that total blank, she somehow managed to start putting pieces together. How did she reconstruct those lost days?
Well, what's really remarkable is how she used things outside of her own memory, external clues. Like she looked at her phone, the call logs, and that showed a 5-minute call to 911, a call she has zero memory of making.
And her parents said she called them too, right after the
Yeah.
crash. That's pretty amazing if she was barely conscious.
Exactly. She described herself, or how she was described, as very much in and out of it during those calls. So moments of talking, yeah, but also groaning, sounds of pain, and then periods of just silence. But somehow, even in that state, she managed to drop a location pin for her parents so they could find her. It's incredible, really, that instinct.
Yeah, truly incredible. But then there's what her dad told her happened during their call, just before help got there. That adds another layer entirely.
Yes, that specific detail really is striking. Her father recounted that right before the emergency services arrived on scene, she suddenly just recited the Lord's Prayer perfectly over the phone.
And the part that makes this even more, well, surprising is what Caitlin herself said about it. She admitted that after her dad told her this, she actually had to look up the words to the Lord's Prayer because she didn't know it well enough to just recite it perfectly like that. And apparently she still doesn't. So
What do we make of a moment like that in the context of amnesia and trauma? Well, I think what really comes through here is how these kinds of moments, maybe moments you can't fully explain logically, they can become incredibly important, anchors almost. When a physical injury like a TBI takes away your personal memory of a huge event. These external stories, whether it's factual accounts from family or maybe something more like a spiritual experience, like this prayer recitation, they don't just help with healing. Sometimes they become the actual framework, the way you build a new understanding, find meaning. For Caitlin, she said this specific moment, this prayer, it really cemented her faith. It gave her hope, she said, that she'd see Preston again someday. It's a really powerful example, isn't it? How when your own memory fails, these outside things, even spiritual insights, can give you immense strength, purpose. Even though she acknowledges she still has a, quote, long journey to go in her healing, it's not just coping. It's like remembering something you never consciously experienced.
And as she's on that journey, it feels so important to also just celebrate the little boy at the center of this, Preston. He was born December 27, 2022, And yeah, he became just huge on TikTok as OK Baby.
Right. That nickname, it came from this totally charming video. I think it was August 2024. Caitlyn says to him, "Give Lovey 1 minute, okay." And little Preston just immediately pipes up, "Okay," and then bam, jumps right into the pool. His mom even wrote in the caption something like, "We're still trying to figure out what okay means to him."
Yeah.
It just perfectly captured his spirit, didn't it? That energy, that zest.
Oh, absolutely. Pure toddler energy. And while he apparently loved the pool, was his real passion.
Mud. According to his mom, that was his absolute favorite thing. He'd apparently spend hours, just hours, splashing around in muddy puddles outside their house. Caitlyn joked that he got his adventurous side from his big sister, Paisley, who's 7 now, said she was just as feral at his age. Sounds like he was quite the character.
Definitely sounds like it. And those Preston interviews she shared online, they were fantastic. There was one where he said his favorite song was Baby by Justin Bieber and then just started singing it. And he had strong feelings about the Grinch. Remember that? He's a mean one, Mr. Grinch. I want to punch the Grinch because he's scary. You really got to feel for his little personality. So vibrant.
Yeah, and a family loved one, Carson Matranga, put it so beautifully when announcing his passing. He said, "I know in heaven right now, if there's mud in heaven, he probably has found it and is jumping and dancing in it." Yeah, just a perfect image for a little boy who clearly loved life and mud. A fitting tribute.
So we've really covered a lot today. It's a story of just immense tragedy, obviously, but also this really disorienting situation with memory loss from the TBI, and yet somehow finding incredible resilience through faith, through family, and through holding on to the memory of this joyful little boy.
Right. So, what does this all mean? Kind of stepping back, I think this deep dive really highlights something profound. When physical trauma, like a TBI, affects our ability to remember the very events that changed our lives, well, grief and healing just get way more complex. They're not linear anyway, but this adds another huge layer. It really shines a light on how external stories, what other people remember, hard evidence like call logs, even those unexpected spiritual moments, they aren't just background details. They can become the actual building blocks for someone to construct their own understanding, to find strength when their internal memory, their own recall is just gone. It really speaks to that fundamental human need for a narrative, for meaning, even if you have to kind of build it with help from the outside.
Yeah, absolutely. And it leads us, and you listening, with a really important question to think about, I think. How do we, as people, as a community, how do we best support someone who's dealing with profound loss, but also dealing with physical or mental trauma that actually affects their memory of the event itself? What's the role of community, of sharing stories, of maybe even acknowledging those moments of grace or faith? How do those things help reconstruct a reality and hopefully foster healing when someone's own personal recall just isn't there? Something to really consider.